To A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic. I hope you're having an absolutely awesome week wherever you are in this amazing globe of ours. It's been a very, very, very busy week for lots of people, and particularly as we're heading into the full moon in Virgo in just a couple of days. So, well, let's kick the show off today on a positive note. We've got an absolutely amazing Simply Tarot card this week. I was really excited when I drew this one earlier today to be able to share this one with you for the week because I think it's a really positive, uplifting sort of card. It's the World. It can be overseas trip for some lucky people, money luck. Now, wouldn't that be nice? World in the palm of your hand. So you have new opportunities are abounding you now. So this is the time where I think we can really get very excited and start to bring in some of those projects that we've been working on. Now's the opportunity. Now's the time to go and see the bank manager for the loan. Now's the time to start to do a little bit of talking, get people on board, get people enthusiastic and excited about your projects, because it is a very auspicious card. And it starts from the show and it goes for the next 7 days. And I always find it's very, very interesting and most exciting that how the card of the week always ties in with whatever we're going to talk about astrologically. If we're talking about the moon or what we're talking about with our little glimpse around the universe, it always seems to tie in. And that isn't by coincidence. I don't sit there and go through the 78 cards and say, gee, we'll have this one. It's what's happened, and I'm guided to that. I shuffle the cards when I'm going to do the card of the week, and I focus on the show. And I focus on what would be the group message for all of us to share. And that's how the card of the week is chosen. And sometimes, as I've said before, sometimes they're not very nice cards and I think, oh, should I put it back and draw a second one? And then I sort of feel, no, that's the one we were guided to, so that's the one we should go with. So it's really nice to have an uplifting, positive card this week. So to kick the show off a little bit more, we're going to be talking about the things that are going to be happening in this next few days, the next week, and let's start with the full moon. The full moon is going to be in Virgo. Now, how do we know which sign a full moon's going to be in? The full moon is always in the direct opposite sign to where the sun is. So the sun is in Pisces. So 6 signs directly opposite is Virgo. So that's where our first full moon, if there was to be 2 full moons in a month, would be. We're not having any second full moons this month. We're not having any blue moons to my knowledge. So it's the full moon in Virgo. So what does that mean in layman's terms? The full moon in Virgo is always a very interesting moon. Let's describe what the full moon means and then let's go into the Virgo energy. Now, the full moon means it's a time for us to release. It's time for us to sort of empty everything out of our lives that no longer serves us, is no longer useful, or things that we've completed, including our emotions. It's a time of a purge. It's a time to sort of set it free. So if you've had an argument with somebody and you don't feel that you can patch it up with them, or you don't even want to patch it up with them, just release the energy, the emotion, the anger, the frustration, all the nasty words that were said or the things that were said during the heat of the moment. Send it away with the full moon. It doesn't mean that you forgive the person, and it doesn't mean you forget. It just means that we're releasing that emotion out of our physical body and out of our emotional body, so it's not going to become a burden and weigh us down. Too many times people hold on to negative or harmful emotions and turn them inward, and that's where I believe that a lot of our illnesses come from, and that's why the word is called dis-ease. Something's not sitting comfortably with you. So rather than take on board things that we don't need, let's release them. Let's let them go out of our lives so that we can go forward, because that's what we need to be doing now, is we need to be looking at things and taking our lives in a much more forward step. So the full moon is on the 2nd of March, wherever you are around the world. So check your local times for the exact precise time that the full moon enters your part of the world. Some people like to put their crystals out under a full moon. I'm not really a crystal person, so I'm not at liberty to really talk about that, because I wouldn't really know what I was talking about, because it's not part of my toolkit that I work with on a daily basis. Yes, I have respect for crystals, and yes, I have some crystals, but I don't technically work with them or fully understand them. I just like what I like. If something's pretty and I'm drawn to it, then I buy it because I'm drawn to it, not because I want to go home and work with whatever the correct energy is or whatever it is supposed to be in my life. It's just something that I was attracted to. So when the full moon is in Virgo, it means it's a time of being very analytical. This is the time when our emotions can come to the surface, and it's like we're a detective. It's like, well, how does that affect me? Why do I want this? Who belongs to this? Can't I put that over there? Can't I put this over here? So it's like sorting our emotions out. It's like the bits that we're going to keep, the bits we're going to get rid of, and the bits we don't know what to do with yet. It's like 3 baskets. It's like sorting everything out, sorting our emotions out. And this can be very difficult, though, because some of the emotions that will come to the surface, we need to be very analytical about. We need to look at it and ask ourselves, why is this still affecting me? If this was something that happened a long time ago or even 3 weeks ago, why is it still affecting me emotionally? And once we get to the bottom of why it's still affecting us emotionally, then we can work out the solutions to how best work with the energy and move our lives on forward. I personally always find the full moon in Virgo is a time of big decisions. Quite often it coincides with people making changes in their life, and particularly changes that can be connected to their physical health. It could be changing a doctor, deciding to go to the doctor, or even deciding the fact that it's time now to really look at what you're putting into your body. It's a time when we must look at our bodies as being a temple, and if we don't give the temple the correct fuel, then how can we get the maximum out of the body? Some people sort of say to me, oh, it's a time when they've had that aha, that light bulb moment where everything that they've been trying to do for their physical health isn't working. Maybe it's a time to look for other directions or other solutions. I'm not an advocate for that you just put all your eggs in one basket. We are human, and we have an amazing abundance of practitioners, whether they be complementary, whether they be orthodox, that we can work with them all. And I think we need to find the solutions that work for us. Not necessarily what works for someone else, but what works for us. For a lot of people, it'll be that time when they think, oh dear, here we are, we're in March. What happened to my New Year's resolutions about I was going to get fit and I was going to eat better and I was going to do this and I was going to do that? Oh yeah, but life got in the road. Well, let's revisit that, and let's try and set some realistic goals. I think at the beginning of the year, I think we get all gung-ho and full of bravado and set these unrealistic goals that at the time we think we're going to be able to achieve them, but when we try and put them into practicality and into our lives, we fall very short and it all becomes too hard and gets left behind. So let's now lower the goalposts and make these changes that we talked about at the beginning of the year, particularly if it was health and diet and fitness related, into a more realistic basket that we can incorporate that into our daily lives. For some people, it's a time where emotions feel very, very strangling. It's like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. If you're prone to headaches, sometimes this is a time when we can actually get a headache, even though it's not in the sign of Aries. Quite often, anything related to Virgo, for whatever reason, can bring on headaches or migraines. And sometimes that isn't necessarily a cause coming from unresolved emotional issues like we normally would associate it with. Sometimes it's to do with us not digesting the food that we're putting into our bodies properly. So maybe it's a time for a couple of days to eat more clean food, more natural food, more food that's, fruits, vegetables, things that are easily digested. Stay away from the heavy, stodgy sort of foods, and definitely stay away from chemical-driven genetically modified sort of foods. I think the body is screaming out for sort of as natural as possible, and give your body what it's screaming for. And no, your body doesn't scream for chocolates and chips. If your body's screaming for that, then you're actually lacking some mineral or some enzyme that your body needs. It's not asking for chocolates and chippies, unfortunately. So look at your diet and look at the things that you can improve. So that brings me on to our candle of the week. And this week I thought I'd feature it in a slightly different way. For those of you that aren't familiar, we do have a range of candles, the soy candles. I've got 28 in my range. And we do have precisely a full moon candle. But we also have candles that relate to the star signs and just about everything else that you can think of you'd want to change in your life. This week I'm featuring the mini trio pack. Now these little candles will burn for up to about 15 hours. Now you can see on either side I've got the full moon candle. But the one I've got in the centre is the candle that actually represents Virgo, which is our earth candle out of our astrology range. So this just gives you an idea. If you were to pick a trio pack, you can choose the 3 candles that you want. You might decide that you want a full moon candle, and your star sign candle and the love candle, for argument's sake. But this is just a little pack that I did up today before the show to show you that we can have something that we can take as a travel kit or use in little ceremonies and things to do with the full moon. You know, quite often people go and join in things and they're not always in the luxury of their own home where they have their candle set up. For those of you that prefer to have a bigger candle, yes, of course, we do have the full moon candle, which I light around the full moon. I tend to light mine about 48 hours before the full moon comes, and I burn it for up to about a week. So the 2.5 days of the full moon, 2 days leading up and 2 days on the descending. But that's just my personal thing. If you're going to work with a full moon candle, I suggest you write on a piece of paper the things that you want to release in your life. You place that on a piece of paper underneath the candle. So then you put it underneath the candle, and then you would put the candle on a coaster or something like that. Never burn it directly on a table because the actual glass container does get hot. The soy does not get hot, but it's the candle itself that does get hot. And please never burn a candle unless you're with it. And you only need to burn your candles to get the best maximum work out of them, no more than about 2 hours a day. Anything from about half an hour to 2 hours a day is more than ample, depending on if you're going to be able to sit with the candle and do some work while it's going. That's terrific. Don't ever leave a candle unattended, as I said. Definitely not under an open window or under a fan, and definitely nowhere near your curtains, because we wouldn't like to have a fire. So we're going to be continuing on as we have a little look at what's actually happening in the universe, as we have our little glimpse around the universe this week. And it's interesting again this week, I'm going to focus on the Pisces energy because we still have 4 planets sitting in Pisces, but this week they've done a little bit of a swap around with who's holding hands with who. So this week we've got the Sun conjunct Neptune, or the Sun holding hands with Neptune. Now what that means in very, very quick terms for all of us is it's a time when we need to make sure that our ego and what we hope to achieve, or the things that we're sending out to the universe and the things that we want to achieve in the coming weeks, are really clear. Are they sort of formulated? Be very aware with Neptune here, it can be that things may still be in a little bit of a fog. We may not have all the answers yet. Yes, our creative energies are probably going through the roof, and that's good. That's terrific. But be aware to sort of just keep them on a nice, even sort of keel. I'm not saying don't start anything, and I'm not saying don't get enthusiastic and excited. I'm just saying be aware that people are listening and really listening to what you've got to say. And be aware that you're not just seeing what you want to see, that you may be a little bit of deception there with Neptune, but not always. Neptune can be incredibly creative as well. And particularly with the Sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces, it means anything connected to water sports, shipping, oil, television, film, any of those sort of areas, mental health areas, are particularly auspicious this week. So also in Pisces, we have the planet Mercury, the planet of communication, is also conjunct or joining hands with Venus in Pisces also. A little bit of a gap between the first lot of planets and the second lot of planets, so they're not all holding hands together. They're two separate, like two separate areas of the chart, even though they're both in Pisces. So when we've got Mercury conjunct Venus, this is telling us to be very, very careful of the conversations we have with people that are important to us, people that we have a loving connection with, whether that's a love affair or their family or their children, people that we really do connect with on that higher vibration of love and consider them like family. Make sure that you're all listening to the decisions or the conversations that are being made and things that are being talked about at the moment. Don't just get, oh, well, my part of the conversation's more important than yours, so I can switch off when you speak and I don't have to listen to what you've got to say in answer to what I've just raised. Everybody needs to be heard, and everybody's conversation or point of view is incredibly important. So as long as you're aware of that and you make sure that you listen to each other, it shouldn't necessarily be a time of unhappy conversations or arguments or bitter words or cranky tantrums. It should be a time of being quite pleasant and actually some really wonderful opportunities for romance and candlelit dinners and, going for a walk by the lake or the ocean and just really enjoying the time with each other. And it could be the time where you're talking about future plans with loved ones or lovers about, things that we might want to achieve later in the year or booking that special trip. So it is a really important time. So we wrap up our 4-part series this week in love. Last week I forgot it. I do apologise. I was probably a little bit unaware of what I was up to, as I'd been on Michelle's show earlier, and we had so much to talk about there that when it came to my show, I sort of ploughed through and then realised about 2 hours later that we hadn't talked about love. But that's okay, we're here, we're talking about it this week. So wrapping up our 4-part series in love, and this is how love through the signs. So this week we're working on Capricorn, Aquarius and Pisces. So if you fall in love with a Capricorn, or how does a Capricorn look at love? Well, a Capricorn looks at love the way they do everything else. It's got to be logical, practical, it's got to fit, it's got to be something that doesn't interfere with their day-to-day life too much. I mean, yes, they like and enjoy being in love, but love has to fit in around the things that are so important to them. And with most Capricorns, that's their work, that's their job, that's their career. So love has to slot in somewhere in the holes around that. Love doesn't necessarily come first to them. Their first love really is money and big business and power. It's not necessarily always matters of the heart. I'm not saying they're not capable of love, and I'm not saying they don't make wonderful partners, fathers, mothers and things like that. They certainly do. But as long as you're aware that they will always have one eye on where the family finances are going, because that's part of their way of seeing love in its rightful place. You know, we can have love, but if we haven't got the bills paid and we haven't got a roof over our head, then that puts a strain on love. So maybe they do have the right way of looking at love in a much broader sense than just the hearts and flowers. So love for an Aquarian. Now, what would that mean? Well, we've established, if you've been watching regularly, that Aquarian people just love being different. They love to be a law unto themselves. They have a unique way of looking at everything. They're very knowledgeable. They have lots of answers to everything, and love's no exception. Aquarians like love to be on their terms, not necessarily on anyone else's. And that can be, it's almost like you need a set of traffic lights, you know, when it's the go, the cautious and stop with an Aquarian, because Aquarians don't like to be tied down. They have tremendous ability to think of many, many new ideas and things very, very quickly, and the rest of us have trouble trying to catch up. Well, with love, it's no different, because the way that they sort of look at things is, first and foremost, the person or the love interest has to captivate their mind. When you've captivated their mind, then you've captured their heart, because you've got their attention, and then they think, wow, this person is very interesting, they're stimulating, they're exciting, they've got great conversation, they make me feel really good, and it's great. So not too much to worry about there. As long as you can have great conversation, you'll know with a Capricorn that everything's going to go great. With an Aquarian, everything will go great. So now we wrap it up with Pisces. Pisces is a beautiful sign. Pisces are very romantic. They love to sort of shower their partner with love and affection. They really see no wrong in anybody, and they, in a sense, put their partner up on a pedestal. So if you're fortunate enough to have a Pisces in your life that loves you, you're very, very lucky, because you will be treated like a king or a queen, and you can really do no wrong in their way. Don't underestimate how strong they are. They are incredibly strong people, and they will die for you. That's how strong their love runs. So we're about to take our first caller, and it's Shelby in Monton in New Brunswick, Canada. Are you there, Shelby?
Yeah.
How can I help you, sweetie? Do you have a question for me?
Yes. I don't really know if there's like rules around what you can ask. So I have a close friend to me that he's been missing. Nobody's heard from him. He was last seen in July, and I had a dream about him, and it was very like vivid, and so I've been trying to reach out somewhere about that.
Okay. I'm sorry for you, Shelby, that nobody's heard from this person since July. That has to be incredibly worrying for everybody, and I mean everyone. The only energy that I'm picking up from your friend is there was a lot of endings, changes or transformations in his life. So he did deliberately close off a lot of doors. Now, whether or not that means that he deliberately decided to sort of step out of the equation because he needed some time to think, he needed some time to reorganise his life, that would be more where I would take it. I'm not being shown anything negative as much as that, you know, he may have met with foul play. I'm not being shown that. I mean, of course, that's that's still a possibility. But normally if that was the case, they would come through to me on a spirit level and sort of share with me, you know, what's happened in some form. He's not doing that. He's just showing me that he needed to make changes with his life, and he needed to sort of step out of everybody's radar for a while, because I feel that there was something that happened in his life that triggered this. So do you know whether or not there'd been a loss or something like that in his life? Had he lost a job, lost a relationship? Had everything sort of seemingly been going out of control prior to them deciding to disappear?
Yeah, he actually had just lost a relationship and child.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's the trigger for this. Look, I'm picking up April. Now, I don't know whether that means that's when he's going to reach out to you or someone else and say, hey, I'm okay. But April seems to be a major turning point with this, and I feel a sense of relief. So I'm going to take that on a positive, because I don't think I'd feel a sense of relief if something was seriously wrong. So that's how I'm sort of looking at that. I feel that there will be something positive, some sort of response, whether he reaches out, sends a message, picks up a phone, does something around April, is what I'm being shown.
Okay.
And look, you know, the fact that he came to you in a dream, I think, was a very positive thing, because he was trying to let you know on an energetic level that he's okay. You know, that's important, that he is okay.
Okay, and it makes sense because the child that he had lost is supposed to, or was supposed to, go back to him in the month of April.
Right. Okay. Well, everything's sort of coming together then, so I think you just need to keep being positive, keep sending him positive energy. Every time you think of him, send out a positive energy and say, darling, you know, please make contact. That nobody's going to be cranky with you. We just need to know you're okay. And put it in the most positive ways that you can, because he will pick up on that energy and he will do something with it in time.
Okay. That's very helpful.
You're very, very welcome, Shelby. Have a great night.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
For our next caller to come in. On next week's show, we're going to be working with a new 4-part series on health. So if you've got some health concerns, we're going to kick the 4-part series off next week with Aries, Taurus and Gemini. So look forward to that. Of course, we'll have our 4-part we'll have our glimpse around the universe. We'll have our card of the week, our candle of the week. And of course, we'll be doing some free readings as well. So hope you can join us again next week. For those of you that might want a more detailed reading that haven't got a chance to get through for a reading here tonight on the show, you can always head to my Facebook page, Amanda Hall Psychic, and there you'll find the links to my website to book a reading. I'm happy to phone you anywhere in the world and conduct a private consultation with you over the telephone. So don't feel that you have to be limited to Australia here. So, you know, it's going to continue to be, I think, a very action-packed week as we head more into the full moon, as we've already talked about. And things will, you know, really sort of ramp up on an emotional level. So you've just got to be kind to each other and look at what's sort of happening in your lives past that point. You know, like, we need to be able to be aware of that. And be aware of the things that are coming to the surface, and be aware of the people that are closest to you too, that they may just need somebody to listen to them and, you know, to be able to sort of have a little bit of a chit chat and sort of get it off their chest as well, because sometimes even once we've voiced it, it's a good thing that we're able to then move forward in our lives. So it's a good thing to be able to release things, particularly on a full moon. So I just know that, you know, full moons, a lot of people say to me, I can't sleep, I have trouble eating and all those sort of things. And that's just showing how sensitive you are to the emotional pull of the moon. So we've got Antoinette in Juliet in Illinois. Are you there, Antoinette?
Good. How are you?
Good, sweetie. What's your question?
I just had a question about love, family, finances, and my husband.
Okay, sweetie. All right. First thing they're showing me is we've still got a little tiny bit of waiting time, Juliet, before I think family finances particularly are going to improve. Last year seemed to be a horror year as far as finances. As fast as it came in, it went back out the door again. This year, I think it'll continue on that way for probably another month to 5 weeks, and then things are really going to start to stabilise and settle down. Has your husband been looking for another position?
No.
There's another job coming up around him. So could that be an opportunity for a promotion with the current job that he's in that would lead to more money?
Okay.
Because I'm seeing more money. I'm seeing an opportunity of a change of position with more money, and that seems to be somewhere between now and June, but it's coming sort of literally out of nowhere on the job front, and your husband comes home and talks about it with you, and he says initially it's going to mean, you know, a few more hours a week at work, but it'll be worth it because we've got this amount of money coming in. And I don't think it's always going to be extra hours for the extra money. It's sort of like 3 months of really hard yakka and then things sort of stabilise again. But I feel this year too, it's like the marriage itself is cementing together in a much stronger way, I think, because things are starting to clear up and, you know, finances are improving and just generally life is becoming a lot less difficult than what it was. You seem to be pulled in so many directions last year. It's a wonder you sort of had time to scratch yourself. Just seemed to be just such a full-on year. Where this year, I'm pleased to say things are tapering off, you know, to sort of back to normal, if we can put it that way, you know, like just having time for the family and to be able to enjoy each other and, you know, not have so much stress, which will be nice. But I also felt in the second half of this year, Antoinette, that you were making some sort of changes for you personally. So are you working at the moment?
Yes, I am.
But is there something there that could be evolving or changing with your job around August, September?
Hopefully.
There's something around that time that sort of, I don't know whether it's necessarily a change, but it was sort of like I'm evolving or morphing into this direction around then, and that seemed to be putting a big smile on your face, and you seem to sort of feel that everything, all the effort that you've put in is finally starting to pay off, and that's good too. I'm feeling quite excited. But I'm also looking at a family trip somewhere around October, November, where you might sit there and laugh at me at the moment and say, I can't see how that would happen. You know, we haven't got the money for a start and all the time. Well, I'm going to say to you it is going to happen because it's being planned, and it'll be a well-deserved trip for the two, you know, for the family. It's sort of like it's been a long time in coming. But I think all in all, everything is starting to come together nicely, Antoinette. You know, the hard work you and your husband particularly have put in around the family is starting to come together now, sweetie. So I just want to wish you well. I know everything's on the improve, and I know you'll get your wishes this year.
Okay, thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. Well, we've come to the end of the show again. I mean, half an hour seems to go very, very quick these days, doesn't it? So don't forget, next week's show, we start off with our new 4-part series in health. We'll have our Simply Tarot card of the week, our candle of the week, our glimpse around the universe, and, of course, our free readings on the show as well. And as I said, I'll be uploading information to Facebook later on tonight on what we've just talked about on today's show. And you can always book a reading or sign up for my newsletter from my Facebook page, Amanda Hall Psychic.